Thank you. My name is Cathryn James. I work for Yorkshire Ambulance Service and my background is a paramedic and I still work clinically 1 day a week.
My name is Cathryn James. I'm the Associate Director for Yorkshire Ambulance Service for Service Development and Innovation.
I'm Jeanette Turner. I'm a Research Fellow in the School of Health and Related Research at the University of Sheffield.
Okay, this is Mavis. She's a little frail, she's 86. She's still living on her own and that's where she likes to be. Like thousands of other people across the country, her daughter realised she was getting a little bit more frail, so it was established that she got a pendant, a Telecare alarm, so that if anything happened and she needed help, she could press it. So this particular morning, Mavis is a little bit not feeling as good as normal, but what happens is she drops the remote control for the television and her arthritis is really not very good today, and then her knees and her balance just loses it as she reaches down and she falls down to the floor, and try as she may, she can't get up. So as she's struggling, she realises she's got the pendant round her neck. She presses it. Like Mavis, a pendant is answered in a monitoring centre. This centre could be anywhere in the country. There are, in the Yorkshire region, we believe there are around 30 different monitoring centres. In this case, Mavis is connected to the local authority monitoring centre. And in the centres, in non-clinical people, say to Mavis, what's the matter, why have you pressed your pendant? That sort of thing is coming through a telecom. Mavis explains what's happened, and these call centres have to make a decision now, what do we do for Mavis? Because this lifeline is what it says, it's a lifeline to get help for Mavis. And a lot of the time, the result is an ambulance. Being because the daughter lives 50 miles away, there is no one else that can go and pick her up. There are no neighbours nearby, they're all elderly and frail as well. And there aren't any services in this particular area. There's no other responders to go. They default through to the ambulance service. Call comes into our system, and we class it as a third-party caller. They're ringing on behalf of Mavis. And our system is geared up to deal with life-threatening, so we immediately take the call and start the ambulance to that address. And actually, we struggle then to get more information because we ask the third-party monitoring centre some more clinical questions, because our system is the NPDS system that most ambulance services in the country are still using. So we ask, is Mavis breathing normally? Is she hurt? Is she bleeding? And the monitoring centre says, I don't know, I'm not sure. We don't get a good response. So actually we send an 8-minute blue light and siren ambulance to this call. The paramedics arrive with Mavis and they take her to hospital. They don't know her, she's rather confused, rather frail, she goes to hospital, and we all know the scenario that then might happen. She picks up an infection, she stays longer than necessary in hospital for lots of different reasons, she gets more mobility problems, and she might end up in a care home, or she might even die. So that's Mavis. The background here is we believe there's a large unregulated telecare industry and that doesn't have consistent links to healthcare. We know in Yorkshire, or we believe we'll get 1,000 calls a month-ish, although we struggle to actually get enough data on how many calls we are getting from Telecare. And many of the calls are for this type of thing, for a fall. Falls can be simple, like Mavis really needed some assistance and ideally should have stayed at home, or she could have had a more serious injury or a fracture. We noticed a lack of joint working processes and systems with the Telecare. We've got staff frustrations on both sides. And it's interesting that some of these Telecare organisations have responders and some don't. It's difficult to understand why. So is this the right care for Mavis to scoop her off to hospital and have the ambulance response? It probably isn't. I think we can do better. So what we did is we, in conjunction with the Telecare industry, and there is a membership organisation called the TSA, the Telecare Services Association, we've delivered some new care pathways in 2 areas. This was a pilot initially with Sheffield and Leeds. These are the local authority monitoring centres, and between them they've got about 30,000 people like Mavis, mainly elderly, with a pendant alarm. We developed new clinical decision algorithms so that they knew when they really needed to ring 999 and when we could look at some alternatives. So we looked at using our clinical advisors in our ambulance control room as a different option. So that means now that Mavis doesn't necessarily get the blue light ambulance. We can use alternatives. We can contact a GP, contact the community nursing teams, and in Mavis's instance, we could use one of our emergency care practitioners, send them on their own in a car, assess Mavis, and decide the best care that might not be hospital, and meaning hopefully she can stay at home. This resulted in much better working relationships. We'd not worked with these telecare monitoring people before. It improved relationships, we got much better and more appropriate use of our ambulances, so it reduced staff frustrations. We noticed as well that by using other resources and being able to dispatch something other than the blue light ambulance, we could reduce conveyance rates, so especially that was particularly noticed by using the emergency care practitioners. And again, alternatives to ambulance we used within this piece of work. So more appropriate care, and I think the work we've done has proved that people like Mavis can be kept at home where appropriate.
So where does this leave us in terms of challenges for the future? Well, I think we all know that there's rising 999 call volumes year on year, 6% rise in Yorkshire. We do know that there's an ageing population, and we also recognise, not just Yorkshire but globally, there's a finite level of resources, and we need to think about the most appropriate care for people like Mavis. And the pilot work that Cathryn's done and we've done in Yorkshire Ambulance Service has started to indicate that this is an area where there's great potential in providing different types of care for Mavis that's more cost effective, that keeps people at home, like my mum and dad, you know, we all think about that. So what we want to do today is we ain't pitching up for, in terms of, we're pitching for support and recognition to actually understand this challenge further, because we believe we need a little bit more evidence to actually, this is a national challenge, and we think by linking the health and social care services together, we can actually do a lot more appropriate care for the likes of Mavis. So what sort of help are we looking for, and why did we put in for the award? We want to, and we will be developing further robust clinical algorithms for more telecare services in Yorkshire, but we want to influence this nationally. These are people answering the phones on behalf of Mavis's relatives. They're picking up the pendant, answering the phones, and they have no guidance, so the risk associated with that. And as Cathryn said, most of the reasons that they contact these services are through usually for a health related issue, and some of these companies are not, they're local authorities or private, so we want to actually give them robust algorithms to get the right choice initially when they press the alarm. The other thing we want to do is we want to influence regulation for the telecare services, because we believe that by the regulation that we have in the health and working together, we can join it up more. In terms of, there's real potential around how this links with the new 111 service, and we see some potential around people dialing 111, how the telecare services could link to that as well.
So I've been brought in to help develop the next part, should we be successful in getting some funding for that, and that is really around if we're going to develop a service, and particularly if people want to introduce it nationally, then in an ideal world of course that would be evidence-based, and the next part is to try and build up that evidence base, make it more robust. What Cathryn has done is really sort of touched on the tip of an iceberg in two cities, and so in terms of an evaluation, I've just picked out some themes. It could be more, but one of the first things is to actually scope out what the scale of the problem is, because we really don't know what that is, but we do know that it's an elderly and large population. Cathryn's work has shown two interventions to a certain extent, more influence from clinical nurse advice, and also in one of the cities there was a pick-up service, but we could scope the evidence internationally to see if there are actually other alternatives as well that could start fitting into a system of pathways for this group of patients. And then, having done that development, the important thing is then to actually trial it, test it properly, and make a good, robust assessment of whether it's actually clinically effective, providing better, more appropriate care for patients, and also whether it's cost effective. There's enormous potential for cost savings with this in terms of reducing 999 ambulance responses, and probably more importantly, reducing unnecessary admissions to hospital. But of course, you need to pay for the services that will replace that, and so a good economic evaluation would be part of that process as well.
So just in conclusion, I think we need to look at Mavis and like all the other elderly people out there and give them a good service, and the focus group we did just proved that the elderly people, they do want to stay at home, they don't want to go to hospital, they don't want an ambulance unless it's really necessary, but they want what's appropriate for them. Thank you.